Happening now on Grid Tonight. We start off tonight by remembering a special man in the world of Formula One. What legacy does the great late Eddie Jordan leave behind? Multiple reports in the media suggest that Red Bull has made up its mind. Could the expected early season seat swap involving Liam Lawson and Yuki Tsunoda backfire? Hello to all our viewers watching here in the United States and around the world. Welcome to Grid Tonight, your weekly motorsports news program. I'm Kobe Lambeth. With me tonight are Joshua Birch from JB Motorsports, Matt White from Grid Endurance Performance Index, and Jess Ball, also from JB Motorsports. We encourage everyone to interact with us in the chat, support us through Super Chat, and visit gridnetworktv.com for our latest content. And we're going to be having a special announcement next week about gridnetworktv.com, so be sure to be checking that out within the next week or so as we get ready for the grid ranking. Not this coming Sunday, but the following Sunday. Yeah, but there's a lot to talk about tonight in the world of Formula One. Some drama with Red Bull, and also, we lost a very important person to the Formula One paddock. So we're going to start off tonight's program with some really sad news.
Yes, thank you, Kobe. Good evening to you. Good evening, Matt. And hello, Jess. Nice to see you again. Shame we're not in a commentary box right now. Yes, sad news to start with as well. And I've worn my very best Eddie Jordan shirt to get ready for it as well. Because early last Thursday morning, legendary Formula One team owner Eddie Jordan passed away at the age of 76 after battling an aggressive form of prostate cancer over the last year. A native of Dublin, Ireland, Jordan was a driver himself during the 1970s into the 1980s, now competing in championships such as Formula Ford, Formula 3, Formula 2, and he also made an appearance in the 24 Hours of Le Mans. And then in 1991, he founded his Jordan Grand Prix team, and seven-time Formula One world champion Michael Schumacher made his debut with the team at the Belgium Grand Prix. Jordan also had significant drivers represent his team like Damon Hill, Martin Brundle, Rubens Barrichello, and Jean Alesi. In 1998, the Jordan team won its first F1 race at the Belgian Grand Prix, with Hill taking the top step on the podium and teammate Ralf Schumacher finishing second for Jordan 1-2 on that special day. From the team's debut season in 1991 till 2005, Jordan won 4 F1 races before Eddie sold the team in early 2005 after declining in performance for several years. After Eddie ended his time as team owner, he became an F1 media pundit and stayed involved in the sport. Looking at his style and personality, Eddie was different. He wasn't born to fit in to a specific crowd. He was born to stand out and be his own person. As for Jordan Grand Prix, they were an underdog team punching above their weight against some of the biggest names in F1, and people in sport love a good underdog story. Formula One released this saying, "We are deeply saddened to hear about the sudden loss of Eddie Jordan. With his inexhaustible energy, he always knew how to make people smile, remaining genuine and brilliant at all times. Eddie has been a protagonist of an era of F1, and he will be deeply missed. In this moment of sorrow, my thoughts are those with his entire Formula One family, are with his friends and loved ones." That was from Stefano Domenicali, who, over the years, EJ certainly gave a good ribbing to him, especially after the Fernando is faster than you in Germany. I remember that post-race interview quite well. The FIA as well said Eddie Jordan was a legend of Formula One. He made an invaluable contribution to global motorsport throughout his life. All of us at the FIA would like to send our deepest condolences to his family and friends at this very difficult time. Eddie will always be remembered as a great sportsman and a passionate ambassador for Formula One on and off the track. Well, Matt and Jess are with me now to talk about the great man as well. And Matt, starting with you, what will you remember the most about Eddie Jordan's legacy and the impact he had on the sport? Of course, we've spoken many a time about the jabs that EJ's had, and we've tried to do the same on this show over the years.
Yeah, we tried. Good evening, guys. Hello, everyone. If you're watching this live, get in the comments section. We want to hear your Eddie Jordan remembrances as well. We're going to obviously line off probably the most famous ones. As I said on Thursday morning when I heard this and put it on Blue Sky, the cars for me were always the stars of the Jordan Grand Prix and Jordan racing time. Iconic liveries. even back pre-Formula One, the camel livery that they had on the car when John and Lacey took the crown in F3000 in a couple of years before coming to F1. Of course, the 7-Up car in 91, the Jordan 191, and one of the most iconic cars of all of Formula One. I remember having the model, the little one, 148 or whatever it was, of Rubens Barrichello's Salsol car from would have been 94, I think, when he took pole. That's one of my early Jordan memories. I would have been 8 of 94 or 5 when he got the pole at Belgium. I think I from memory he got it on the Friday when we used to have a double days of qualifying, and then Saturday was rained off or something along those lines, and he held on to get pole. Heinz Howard Frentzen coming close to the championship, perhaps with a couple of wins in 99. You mentioned, Josh, Belgium 98 with Damon and Ralph. The iconic Damon Hill radio message. I'm going to tell you something here, and you're going to have to listen to me, etc. I mean, that was just brilliant. I mean, you had such a great array of drivers, didn't they? That team: Fizzy, Trulli, Takuma Sato in his early days. Then there was, towards the end, there was, you know, a few of the pay drivers: Thiago Monteiro, Giorgio Pantano spring to mind, Freya Saka, right at the end. But I mean, Eddie, brilliant as a team boss, and just the most determined. We don't get those. You can look at Formula One now, perhaps, or the last few years, the team principal array, and you go, they're not bothered if they get the sack. They're not interested. Eddie was there. He was there for a long time, throughout that whole of the V10 era and into the V8 era, where we've seen so many people come and go. I mean, I guess it was kind of him and Ron, wasn't it, really, through that era that stayed around, McLaren, that stayed around for such a long time. Wasn't a massive fan of him as a pundit, I have to say, in the BBC days, but the Channel 4 video that they put together and put out this week with Bono doing the voiceover was just spectacular. But yeah, the on-track product will remain with me, especially those Buzzin' and Hornets, yellow cars with the bee and the snake and whatnot down the side towards the end.
And as sorry, Jess, I was going to say to Adam, Eddie Jordan gave Michael Schumacher his first ever drive in Formula One, the 91 Belgian Grand Prix in Spa. An incredible man, one of my favourite owners of all time. And yeah, it's one of the, I do believe that 7 car was one of Jordan's sponsors on his F1 cars back in the day. It was, yeah, the beautiful green livery. One of the only times that EJ was outmaneuvered in Formula One, because Flavio Briatore swooped in and grabbed Schumacher for the next race as well after Belgium, and EJ felt very much like, oh, that's I don't like that. And Ron Dennis famously pulled him to one side and said, "Welcome to the Piranha Club." The first time that ever got mentioned, and then it's sort of just become the renowned knowledge of that Formula One is the Piranha Club. It's beautiful. It all started with him, Jess. Go on, what's your thoughts?
I think without Eddie Jordan being there, Michael Schumacher wouldn't even be in the sport. I'm sure someone would have picked him up eventually, but Michael Schumacher was brought up by Eddie to start with, gave him some tips during the start of his first race, because it's always nerve-wracking. And he did pretty decently to start with. So that is what I remember with Michael Schumacher. Of course, Rubens Barrichello being in the team as well. I remember when he had pole for the team for the first time and the whole team was absolutely cheering. It was incredible. And having those famous drivers that are joining the team, it's amazing. And of course, you've got to remember the 1998 Belgian Grand Prix, one of my favourite races due to the fact that it was chaotic, and you never would have thought that Damon Hill would have won that race without Schumacher in second, and with Eddie Jordan absolutely celebrating his hearts off that he won. It was a shame that obviously it was Damon Hill's last race win, but Eddie definitely contributed to that, and I think that's a race win I'm going to remember from them for a long time. And I liked him as a pundit, really. I think, of course, in the moments when the big driver moves were said, he kind of predicted that Michael Schumacher was going to return to sport. He jumped on saying that he moved to Mercedes. He also talked about Lewis Hamilton going to Mercedes. And of course, he's helped a certain figure, which we're talking about in a minute, move to Aston Martin. So I think without those moves, I don't think Eddie Jordan wouldn't have had an impact today. And he's always likable on track. He's very likable on track. He's so funny. I remember when he did the Do you know I think it was 2010, the F1 pub quiz in Silverstone, with I think Al Murray as the host, and then we had like Jake Humphrey. Jake Humphrey got on well. I think Jake Humphrey will be absolutely gutted at the news. And Chris Moore's and Comedy Dave, and I remember one of the assistants calling him Comedy John for some weird reason. But yeah, that was funny. I think he's going to be sorely missed, and he is a likable character on and off the grid.
There's a couple for me that always stands out. One, Eddie getting thrown into the pool in Monaco by Adrian Newey and Christian Horner. And then coming up and being more worried about, I've lost my glasses. I can't find them. And then you've got Adrian Newey going down to the pool trying to look for Eddie Jordan's glasses, which is fantastic. Then you've got him almost getting run over by a Brawn in Sao Paulo pit lane.
Yes.
He's going to stand back and, oh, hello, there's a car behind me. I like the one where they're wing walking on the way into Silverstone and they go upside down and everything, and EJ was in his absolute element. And the final one is from his broadcasting days. I absolutely loved it when he has Sir Paul McCartney right there and he calls him George. I was like, what the hell? Because he's signing his shirt. It might have been Abu Dhabi, one of the two. And he signed his shirt for children in need. He said, thanks, George. I was like, it's Sir Paul McCartney. So yeah, he's got McCartney and it's just fantastic. And that was hilarious. And from his racing days, that 98 race was insane, and him jumping up and down was crazy. And that was
running along the pit lane like that.
Jig. And the one I always love about EJ was 2003. That race at Sao Paulo, which weird conditions. Yeah, Fisichella winning, they're not winning, and then EJ storming up and down the pit lane, and and I remember he stood out to me there because he looked so dejected afterwards. But then the delight a week and a half later at Imola. So it stood out to me. And I think, honestly, if you haven't seen it, the 2003 Brazilian Grand Prix is an absolute must. I think it's one of my favourite races of all time.
Even though he's given away the winner.
Yeah. Sorry.
He did win the race. He did win the race while on fire, Giancarlo Fisichella, in the pit lane.
I think the win switched quite a few times there, and I remember a lot of cars going off or turn. What was it near the centre S as well? And we were worried there was going to be a red flag, and
then Alonso suddenly forgot how to see.
And Webber came around to find wheels all over the racetrack at the top of the hill. I've just pulled up the 98, the result from Spa 98, which is pretty much their most famous day. 8 cars finished that race. And I reckon 7 of them have a Jordan. 8 cars, 7 of the drivers that finished have a Jordan link, right?
Oh, go on.
Hill and Schumacher, we said, first and second. Ralph, that is. 3rd place, John Alesi, won the championship for the Minef 3000. 4th place, Frentzen. He was in a Williams that day. 99. Went on to be a championship contender the year after. Pedro Diniz is the Cross. He came 5th. No Jordan links at all. Trulli, 6th. David Coulthard, after being ran over by Michael Schumacher, still finished. Of course, worked alongside Eddie in his TV days. And Shinya Nakano was the other finisher, and he tested for Jordan in '99. Yeah. So 7 of the 8 finishes have a Jordan link in that one race alone, which is madness.
And it's weird that David Coulthard is classified there despite crashing twice.
Yes, he was in the crash at the beginning, wasn't it? Which then, of course, held the red flag. We've got to stop the race. This is the worst start to a Grand Prix I've seen in my life.
It's just weird that race. I did 98 Belgium as well, if you haven't seen it. That's another one. But I think what he's going to be remembered for most at the moment is what I'm about to say, because one of Eddie Jordan's last acts in Formula One may end up having a significant impact for years to come, because he served as Adrian Newey's manager, and he was able to negotiate Newey's early release from his Red Bull contract, helping pave the way for Newey to join Aston Martin Racing. And without Jordan leading the way, there's no telling if Newey would have been able to move up and over from Red Bull when he did. or when the legacy car designer would have ended up today, because he could have ended up at Ferrari and he even could have ended up at Renault, which was a very much now has appeared a big signing point. But we know one thing, Newey has one of the brightest engineering minds in Formula One history, and Aston Martin is going to benefit significantly from his influence. So a team that over the years was Racing Point to Force India to Spiker to Midlands and then back to Jordan again, the team that is his, does Jordan deserve more credit for Newey's move from Red Bull to Aston Martin? And could his work as a manager continue to be felt years after he's gone if Aston Martin do indeed become a top contending team again? I'll start with you, Jess.
Well, I think the impact is going to be felt after he's gone, really, because without Adrian Newey being in the sport, then Red Bull wouldn't have got their constructors and drivers championships. Jordan wouldn't have performed as well. Williams wouldn't have done as well, because don't forget Williams was running the helm of Adrian Newey as well, and the designs that Newey has made was incredible. And I remember Newey asking quite a lot of questions to Eddie Jordan back in the day. And you also got to give some credit back to, I think, Ian Phillips, because he was team principal back in the late 80s, and that's how far Jordan went back with Adrian Newey. And Jordan, I think, got a little bit apprehensive at the time on where thinking, oh, is Adrian the next big thing? But then he realized he was just so clever. He thought differently to him. We do know that Newey is like a rock star. He said as well they used to go to Glastonbury together, which I find quite funny. But I think they just got on so well that they were able to share each other's ideas. And I think because of that, Newey had a soft spot for the Jordan stroke, how many teams it went before it goes to Aston Martin, and he wants to, I think, fulfill that legacy. I'm guided to how Aston Martin are doing at the moment. Obviously with Alonso retiring 2 times in a row, but with Lance Stroll doing amazing. I can see good things with Newey being in the team, and I don't think Newey would have been at Aston Martin without Jordan's help. I think it's kind of like a sign of God. His health was deteriorating. Jordan wanted to make sure that the best engineer was with a team that he first started with, and I think Aston Martin are going to go on to big things, hopefully, in the future.
Yeah, it's odd, isn't it, that it's all kind of for that duo that it's come full circle, and now Adrian is at Silverstone, or going to be at Silverstone. He started a couple of weeks ago, didn't he? His gardening leave finished or whatever.
March.
So, that's right. So he's now in place. It's not the same building, but it's at Silverstone where Eddie began all those years ago, and he's been the driving force and behind all the negotiations to get in there, which is, as you said, just kind of strange, but also really cool that that's come around in that way. And yeah, I mean, we await to be, to see what happens with Adrian at AM over the next couple of years, especially into the regulation change coming up next year. But I mean, there's that. There's other things that we've not mentioned. Eddie was the one that was telling us that Lewis Hamilton was going to leave McLaren, and you're all sitting there. We're all sitting there in 20 whatever that year that was, going, no, it's not happening. And then you saw him walk away from the broken down car at Singapore, and you go, it's happening. He was right.
He predicted
and you said
it.
you said about Mike, talked about Michael coming back. That happened. It was him and Nicky Lauda were the two, weren't they, that were like, this is going to happen. And you go, no, not a chance. And then it happened. They were always at the front end of the news cycle.
And they thought Lewis Hamilton. We thought Lewis Hamilton was going to do rubbish at Mercedes, but now he's the most successful driver of all time. And he's just started his career at Ferrari. And yeah, I think without Lewis, this is bold move to Mercedes. I don't think he would have got any more championships, because McLaren, I think I remember back then, after that, was a bit of a rubbish car. So
yeah, that's right. The year after, I think they only had the one win with Jensen in Brazil. So yeah, that turned out brilliantly. But yeah, I mean, for all of the things that we've said and everything that everyone else has said in the last couple of weeks about Eddie, it's just a shame that he's been struggling for a while by the sound of things health wise. He had many fingers in many pies, not just in Formula One but in other business ventures, and it's it's going to be a different paddock without him, let's say.
It's going to be felt massively as well. Eddie Jordan, the rock star of Formula One, the lovable Irish rogue who would make a deal with God. Go up there, Eddie. Continue rocking on and playing your spoons. Eddie Jordan, you will be very dearly missed. And in Eddie's honour, as much as he would be saying to all of us right now, I'm not the story, get back to business. And that's what we'll do with Eddie's thoughts right on with us as well. And this is something that if EJ was in the paddock right now, he'll be having those fingers in pies because according to multiple media outlets as well, Red Bull Racing is set to make an early season seat swap with an official announcement expected in the days ahead. As we've discussed on our shows for the last week, the pressure on Liam Lawson was starting to reach an unprecedented level after only 2 race weekends as a Red Bull driver. Melbourne was a disappointment, failing to advance out of Q1 and crashing out in the race. And things didn't get much better in Shanghai after Lawson didn't make it out of SQ1 or Q1 and then finished outside of the points for the second consecutive race. On Sunday's Grid Live wrap-up show, we report on stories emerging from Shanghai about Red Bull looking into the possibility of dropping Lawson despite only having 2 race weekends under his belt. Now, Nate Saunders from ESPN, among others, is reporting that Red Bull has decided that it is best to swap drivers, sending Lawson back to Visa Cash App Racing Bulls and promoting Yuki Tsunoda to Red Bull. In the past, we've seen Red Bull swap drivers during the middle of the season, but this is extreme, even for their standards, to do so this early in the season. We all know that the Red Bull F1 car has been tricky to drive, especially from the number 2 driver. It is also important to note that Lawson had never driven at Melbourne or Shanghai before those race weekends, but he has experience at Suzuka from his year in Super Formula. Saunders added that Lawson left Shanghai knowing that a change like this was on the horizon. The link to this report is in the video description and the photo taken by Mark Thompson from Getty Images. Kobe's back with us. Hello, Kobe. Starting with you on this one. Based on the reports we've seen in the media, is Red Bull making a knee-jerk reaction by deciding that Lawson isn't the right number 2 driver after only 2 race weekends?
Yes, it seems like all the time when it comes to the Red Bull driver swaps they're in the middle of the season that they just keep, doing things we've never seen before. Yeah, we've seen them swap drivers before, but to do it after only 2 race weekends, like, you got to be kidding me, right? I just don't understand the decision making process that they have at Red Bull, and it looks like they're going to go with the decision that they probably should have made, right before Christmas break, which was to promote Yuki Tsunoda in the first place, and we could have avoided this whole situation and have Liam Lawson get some more experience at the Visa Cash App RB organization. Yeah, but tonight we're not focused on Yuki, we're focused on Liam because he's the one that's unfortunately going to be caught out by this situation. I know you said this might be a knee-jerk reaction, but for me, I would probably describe this as a panicky move by Red Bull because we know they obviously want Max to be able to take the World Drivers' Championship, but also at the same time, they really care about the constructors as well. And just 2 races in, I think Red Bull is fearing like if Liam doesn't get better anytime soon, that constructors' championship is going to slip away because Red Bull obviously doesn't have the same type of car that they've had in the last several years. And last year we start seeing glimpses of, a Red Bull coming back a little bit from the dominance we've seen. And this year, it seemed like McLaren has the car that everyone's chasing. Red Bull is used to being the hunted, and now they're the group of hunters trying to chase that McLaren. And so although Red Bull's car, is not it doesn't seem like it's the best this year, they don't want to take a chance on Liam Lawson not improving. So in my opinion, it seems like they decided that it was best to move on from Liam because they don't have the confidence that he can improve, and they don't want, Max to be carrying them in the constructors because since the car is not as great, they're not going to be able to rely on Max to single-handedly win the constructors on his own. So they would need someone who can consistently finish in the points, and on a good day for Red Bull, join Max up there on the podium or even contend for a win. Who really knows? We're not really sure what Yuki Tsunoda is going to be able to do yet in that Red Bull. Maybe he'll be the answer, maybe he won't be, and we'll be talking about another mid-season driver changed, but I just really hate it for Liam Lawson at the end of the day. I think 2 races in, just way too soon to give up on him. Although, Australia and China, not good weekends at all. It's not good when you're in a Red Bull car and you're and you're missing out, of advancing out of Q1. That's not a great look. And then SQ1 as well. And then you don't finish in the points either. That I understand why Red Bull is frustrated, but you also have to understand, he doesn't even have 15 career starts yet in Formula One. Still very inexperienced and obviously needed more time. But as Liam Lawson put himself, I simply don't have the time. And Helmut Marko, Christian Horner, everyone at Red Bull, decided that they didn't want to give him more time. I would have at least given him several more races, especially Suzuka, since this would be the first track that he knew. And since he ran well there in Super Formula, I like to see how he would have gotten along in the Red Bull in Japan to see if the first 2 weekends were potentially a fluke and he could finish in the points and be a lot closer to maximum performance. And based on these reports, unfortunately, it doesn't look like he's going to get the chance. And if history serves us right, it doesn't look like he's going to be able to come back to Red Bull later on. Even if he does, well with the return to Visa Cash App RB, I just think that this was a move Red Bull made because they were panicked and worried that the constructors could get out of hand early and Max wouldn't be able to save them like he's done, in the past.
Yeah, I mean, it's a horrible situation for Liam. He was the first guest of the season, I want to say, from memory, a couple of weeks ago on the F1 Beyond the Grid podcast with Tom Clarkson. And they did a whole segment on the podcast of, what tracks has he not been to? Of course, most of his running in F1 so far has been in the second half of the season when he stepped in for Danny Rick after he was injured and whatnot over the last couple of years. So he was always going to be up against it in terms of track knowledge. Australia and Shanghai, as we've mentioned. Miami would be coming up, but he hasn't been there before. Canada's in the first half of the year, and there's a couple of others in there as well where he hasn't been in F2 or testing or whatever. But you can't put all of that on this being a bad choice or whatever. For me, and we talked about this in a very different context at the start of last year, Red Bull upper management in turmoil hashtag with the whole Christian Horner thing last year. Now we've got the driver choice. Someone above the driver pool, someone needs to be taking, control of this situation and putting their hands up and going, oh, sorry, I've made a mistake. In making someone must have made the call. It wasn't Christian. It would have been a collective of, Christian alone or Helmut alone. It would have been a collective of all the shareholders and all the bigwigs or whatever. And it just, again, smacks of they've got one superstar driver. There isn't another superstar driver. Not that there was one on the market. Obviously, there was some talk about Lewis before he signed the Ferrari deal, so he was off the table. McLaren have got their guys locked away. We talked about Oscar Piastri's contract extension last week or week before. They want to find this second massive superstar like we had perhaps in the Vettel Webber days, back in the early days of Red Bull or the middle days of Red Bull as such. They're not going to find one. This also reminds me a little bit, and Josh will remember this, of 2018, 2019 Honda in MotoGP, where they had Marc Marquez.
Yes.
No one else could ride the bike. No one. Cal Crutchlow came, couldn't get on with it. Other people just struggled massively because all the focus was on their main guy. We saw that with Sergio Perez last year. Was lost, absolutely lost all season. And that's kind of rumbled into this year. I know we're going to talk about Yuki once this is officially announced, and I guess it will be at the weekend. What happens next weekend if we get to Q1 at Suzuka and Yuki Tsunoda is knocked out in Q1? What happens then? Where do we go from here?
Toto
Do they
stands
put
there.
Wasser in the car? And...
I was right, says Toto. Change the car. Well, you change your car because Jack Husband can't say in the bleep for ages.
You remember Drive to Survive? Drive to Survive, where Christian Horner was like, if you have a problem, change the car. And I think you got to feel bad for Lawson because Lawson was given an opportunity. I even said on the pre-live show a few weeks ago, give Lawson a chance because it was only his first Grand Prix and everyone pretty much raced Australia before apart from him. So I was just like, I was open to give him a chance and he had hardly any running in FP in the free practice sessions. I was just like, yeah, give him a chance. And roll on China. He's not performing as well. And I just felt like it was not like him to perform this back. He did so well in Racing Bulls last year. He was fantastic. And you got to admit this season, the Racing Bulls are performing better than the Red Bulls. And I'm starting to think I've got an interesting thing to talk about on mid-season driver swaps, all for Red Bull. And it took us back all the way to 2006, where they were making mid-season driver swaps. You got Robert Dorfus, who teamed up with David Coulthard. He couldn't match the David Coulthard's pace. He was dropped before the end of the season because he was going to go to IndyCar. Scott Speed versus Vettel. There was a driver change there as well. We all know Vettel did very well in Italy, and of course the rest is history. And then Vettel moved to Red Bull after that at the Hungarian Grand Prix. 2009 at Bourdais and Alguersuari. There was a few driver swaps then. And I think they played for both in 2012 with Daniel Ricciardo and John-Eric Verne. Then Alguersuari did a bit of a DJing career, which I'm interested to find out where he's DJing, please. That will be lovely. 2016, Kvyat versus Verstappen. That was Verstappen's first proper season at the team, and we know that he won it in Spain. And Kvyat replaced Vettel, and when you replace Vettel, it is always going to be difficult in a sister squad, at least. Kvyat was performing well in Toro Rosso, got moved to the main team. But Kvyat started making mistakes. Verstappen didn't. He got swapped at the Spanish Grand Prix with Verstappen winning on Red Bull debut, as I was saying. Then 2017, I've got adverts. Kvyat, Gasly and Hartley. Hartley didn't do very well. Needed Kvyat swap with Gasly quite early on in the season. 2019, Gasly did not perform very well in that Red Bull car. I don't think it suited him due to Verstappen's crazy driving style. Albon got replaced. Then it got moved over to Albon didn't do very well. Then it was Verstappen, and you've got the AlphaTauri with De Vries, but Red Bull. So are you seeing a pattern here? It's not the driver. I think it's the car. So remember in 2023. Perez was fantastic because the car was great. The car was good at the first half of the season. Perez was doing really, really well. And as soon as the car got rubbish, I think it was Spain, Verstappen was able to adapt to it. Perez started performing poorly. So I think you just got to feel bad for Lawson. I think it's down to the car personally. I even said that last week. I think it's down to the car. And to make a move this early on in the season, I just feel so sorry for him. I think Tsunoda should have gone to Red Bull way before the season started, in my opinion. And I think Tsunoda should have turned down the offer and he should have stayed at Racing Bulls, because if Tsunoda doesn't perform well at Red Bull, I think it's going to tell everybody that it's a second car, not the driver.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was pointing to. Let me quickly read Denver's comment. Liam Lawson, the latest Red Bull scapegoat, and Yuki is the next. So I feel when Max Verstappen go, they will say Max was exceptional. Well, Max is exceptional. Helmet needs to learn from the word patience. Absolutely right. Helmet needs to not speak either most of the time when he's put a microphone under his nose. What was I going to say? Don't forget Red Bull at the very, very beginning of Red Bull, Jess. You listed all those guys off. In the very first season, they had DC in the first car, and when they did a driver exchange between Christian Klein and Vitantonio Liuzzi because they couldn't figure out who was best. So it goes all the way back to there, really. You thought they would have got past that by now, but seems apparently not. And yeah, back to that point again. If Yuki fails, but I was trying to say before, what happens then? Do they go back into the driver market? What happens to the Red Bull driver development program? There's so many unanswered questions.
I don't think anyone wants to be the second driver of Red Bull. I really don't. I think I got an idea. I think I probably said it on the Saturday. Get Max Verstappen in the Racing Bulls, or even a Haas or a lower team, and then we could start to see if Verstappen can perform in any car. Because if he can, then it just shows how great. But I'm starting to respect Max Verstappen now because of Lawson. Without Verstappen, Red Bull will be a back marker team, in my opinion.
And don't forget, this is the first non-Nui Red Bull this year, of course.
Yeah, and that as well. Yeah,
you can't unlearn things as much as people would say. It's a big change. They've learned all the lessons from Adrian over the last however many years. They've got the knowledge, which Max has got too. In comes Liam as the new guy, and he gets his doors blown off in the first 2 races. It was always going to be a bit of an uphill struggle, and it's proven to be so.
Yeah, just because they have all that knowledge from Adrian Newey, that don't mean you can replicate it. You could have absolutely everything. You could have all of the data, everything Adrian Newey's done. You get the Newey blueprint. You give your current engineers the blueprint on, right, this is what we need to do. The car is our Adrian used to do it, and you do it, and it's probably not going to work because Adrian Newey, one of the most brilliant engineering minds in the history of Formula One. He's like a once in a generation type of mind. So that's very difficult to replace. He might be one of the very few who are irreplaceable. So you could do everything you possibly can to try to make this car better the Adrian Newey way, but Adrian Newey is only Adrian Newey. There's only one of him.
Yeah, it's like we've got all the books of all of the famous physicists throughout history as well. Stephen Hawking's A History of the Universe. I can't understand it. And yet he's the smartest man who's ever lived. The blueprints are there. You can't do it. The second seat is cursed, says Adam as well.
Yes.
It is. It's like I said to Megan in the commentary this weekend, Jess, you might remember it. I said, it's like the seat of Defense Against the Dark Arts in Harry Potter. You can't hold it for more than a year.
Oh, yeah, when they kept changing. Like, 1 minute it was Gilderoy Lockhart, and then the next minute was Lupin, and then the next minute was that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm just like, what? Why are you changing, like, Defense Against Dark Arts teachers every 5 minutes, it seems? It's.
Oh, yeah, now we know. There's no consistency left in that Red Bull team anymore. But this is brilliant news because, Jess, to touch on your point about getting him in a lower team, it has been very heavily rumoured for the past couple of months, hasn't it? That at the end of this season, Max could walk away from Red Bull and go to Aston Martin, where he'll know he's got a Honda engine that he likes and has won championship with. He's got
Newey.
Yeah, Adrian Newey. He's got Adrian Newey designing a car for him, and he's either going to be partnered up with Fernando Alonso, who is a double world champion, who they both have so much mutual respect for, or he's going to be partnered up with Yuki Tsunoda, who is also linked with that Aston Martin seat because Honda want him in the car, and he's going to be a top Adrian Newey design car. So we could literally just see that it's literally going to be Red Bull's team now with Max and Yuki that both could leave at the end of the season and go to Aston Martin, and Red Bull are left with absolute egg on their face because they're rushed with Lawson and Hadjar, who they demoted Lawson, and Hadjar's in his first season. They can't develop a car around them. They can't be returning. Well, this could literally be the end of Red Bull as a top-tier team if they don't get the next few weeks right. And that is scary. They've gone from being the most dominant team in Formula 1 history, winning 23 out of 24 races 1 year, or 22 out of 23.
23.
So 22 out of 23 races, only losing once, having over 1,000 days of leading the Drivers' Championship with Verstappen, to now being an absolute laughing joke of the field. What has gone on?
And don't forget, in China, Josh, Hadjar and Tsunoda out-qualified Lawson, both got into Q3. The only reason why Racing Bulls did not do well in the race was because they messed up the strategy.
Yeah, they
and
did.
Guess who's leading that team? He used to be in Ferrari, and Ferrari did rubbish that day. No Enriquez.
Yeah,
Jeff has burned one of my knots for later, but never mind.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah, I've been very vocal on Mikas as well. But interesting enough to go back to it, before the Chinese Grand Prix, Lawson sat down for an interview with the Telegraph where he made some very fiery comments as well. Because when he was asked about taking that second Red Bull seat with limited F1 starts, despite Tsunoda having more experience, Lawson responded by saying that you can't feel sympathy in this sport, and mentioned the times he beat Tsunoda in the past when they were teammates in the junior categories. Lawson then, I think, added that Tsunoda already had his time and now it's my time. The link to this is in the video description below. So, Matt, but circling back to you on this one, should Lawson really regret making those comments now, given what's about to happen to him? And where do you think his F1's career is going to go from here?
Well, insert video of Yuki pulling chair out from behind Liam, which has been going around for the last few days from the F1 dinner from a couple of years ago. I mean, it's all about self-promotion, I guess. He's got to big himself up. You know, it was a bit of a shootout towards the end of the season when we all knew that Perez was going to be gone by Silverstone, basically. It was a shootout, and Liam Lawson, yeah, I've won. Thank you. Christian phoned me on the Monday after Abu Dhabi, and he said, "You've got the gig." But yeah, I guess these are going to be comments that come if they get to a point like, you know, during the season now. I don't know, somewhere in the middle of the season, like Red Bull Ring or Hungary or somewhere where the RB is going well. Lawson and Yuki get to a battle on track where, as we just touched on, no one seems to be running the teams properly in terms of strategy land, either of them. That could get fiery between those two now, especially now, you know, if Yuki gets on with the Red Bull and starts going well, you know, it'll put a rocket up Yuki, not that he much needs one. Especially going to Japan if he's in the big team next week, once that gets confirmed. You know, it's going to be spicy between those two, and that's another problem that they've got to get their hands around, isn't it? So I get the point of, you know, the bigging up of yourself and self-promotion and all that kind of thing, especially if you're a Formula One driver. Look at George Russell last week. He said it was one of the greatest Grand Prix he ever drove. We didn't see him on television, and he came third. So, you know, it's Fernando Alonso's a classic case of that over the last couple of years. So, you know, I get the point of it, but yeah, you're right. Could be a massive scrambled egg on face of Mr. L. Lawson.
I think I remember in Mexico, it was covered in Drive to Survive that Lawson was battling Sergio Perez and it got a bit dirty, and even Christian Horner wasn't happy about that. I think Lawson's attitude, in my opinion, when he goes up against someone who's in a higher team or someone who's in a sister team, in a case of Tsunoda, then it could always get a bit spicy, and Horner was not impressed. And I was a bit worried it was going to get to that situation, and it is. I think seeing with the Red Bull test, I know the Red Bull test is nothing to be sniffed at, but Tsunoda was quite close in the Red Bull test in Abu Dhabi, but we saw that it's obviously Liam Lawson, so it's hard to tell. Lawson has got to be respectful. He's got to be given an opportunity. Right, you move down to Racing Bulls, you might have an opportunity to perform better than Red Bull, and if you do, you could be like, "Ha! Look at me, I'm Liam Lawson." But yeah, I think Liam Lawson definitely will need to improve his attitude, and I think if he doesn't do well at Racing Bulls, I don't think he's going to have a long-lasting career. I don't think he'll go back to the Super Formula. I don't think, and he's going to be so downhearted about that. But as a sport, you got to respect each other. And just a few drivers that are ahead of Liam Lawson in the standings: Antonelli, Yuki Tsunoda, the one that is going to be replaced. Lance Stroll, I didn't think I'll be saying that in 2025. Ollie Behrman, Esteban Ocon. There's teams that do a lot worse than Red Bull that are expected to beat Red Bull, expected to beat them. Same with Williams as well, with Albon. And then Lawson just has hardly got any points. So Lawson needs to pick up his attitude. But I hope, if that's the case, if Lawson goes to Racing Bulls instead, he can prove the doubters wrong and show that he is a talent, and it's down to the car. But he needs to clean up his attitude and his race craft, because he can only go so far in life if he has a bad attitude.
Yeah, I remember reading these comments like a few hours after this interview came out. I had to read it twice. I'm like, did he really say what I think he just said? You know, talking about Yuki in this way. But it was the last part that Josh mentioned when he said that Yuki already had his time and now it's my time. Yeah, really, really short. It kind of reminds me of The Simpsons being where the guy just goes, you know, inside the room and then gets his hat and goes right out, you know, in only like 5 seconds. That's basically the best way I can describe Liam Lawson's tenure at Red Bull, assuming, you know, that this is all but not confirmed. But yeah, probably shouldn't have made those comments. Obviously, young fiery fellow has a lot of growing up to do, and when you get demoted from the Red Bull team, obviously not the greatest thing in the world. And as I was saying, like history shows, probably not gonna, return to the Red Bull team in the future, given circumstances. But I think given where he is right now in his F1 career, limited starts, maybe a return to the RB team, isn't the worst thing in the world, because you won't have the same level of expectations that there are, in driving a Red Bull car, because you're not necessarily expected to beat Max Verstappen, but you need to be at least, in the ballpark of him in performance, and you need to be scoring points regularly on a Red Bull best day. You need to be, up there, battling for a podium position, because they just don't care about the drivers. They also care about the constructors as well. And you basically need to be doing a lot better than what Sergio Perez was doing last season. And after the first two races, Liam Lawson was showing that he wasn't on that type of trajectory, to do what the team needed him to do. So I guess that's why they felt the need to move on. So probably shouldn't have made those comments, because they aged extremely poorly, as we can see. And RB, we can only hope that he can rediscover, any confidence that was lost in Australia and China, so he can try to go out there and prove that he deserves to be in Formula One long term. Because as we saw, Pierre Gasly, Alex Albon, who lost their opportunities with Red Bull, guess what? Yes, they're actually still around right now, because they proved that they still have what it took to be in Formula One, and they've been making a nice career for themselves, after the downside of Red Bull. So my best advice for Liam Lawson, keep your head up, continue to drive to the best of your ability, and try to do a great job for the RB team, and maybe we'll be able to see him stick around in Formula One for a while longer. But if he goes to RB, and completely flops, and we see that he's lost a ton of confidence. Like, you're right, Jess, he's probably not going to stick around in Formula One much longer, especially since Red Bull have a junior driver who's currently racing in Formula 2 that I believe his name is it Arvid Lindblad, if I have his name
correct.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, correct. Red Bull's very high on him, so he's probably going to be the next one up to go to a Formula One seat. So if Liam struggles, that one of those RB seats could be Arvid's next year.
Absolutely. I thought you were going to say something, Matt, as well, so just waiting, just double checking.
No, go on.
Well, yeah, it's going to be a very interesting couple of days, isn't it? While Red Bull sort of try and get themselves under control and stop the media leaks that will keep cropping up as well. Christian Horner should be used to leaks by now. But once this story becomes official, we'll discuss it on next week's episode of Grid Tonight as well, and focusing more on what this opportunity could mean for Yuki Tsunoda. We're going to let Jess go now as well after hearing from us. Jess, you had fun tonight?
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was a bit last minute, but yeah, I enjoy talking, and I'll let you get on with the NASCAR stuff, the E-Pride stuff, and the hots and nots. I know what your not's going to be straight away, Josh.
You might have to remind me in a text, because I might have forgotten about it. If it's laptops,
Will do.
Denver says, curse whoever in the second Red Bull seat need to see a shrink afterwards as well. Forget a shrink, they need a lobotomy after what they've been put through as well, just so they forget it. It's the Liam Lawson chance of giving Helmet the middle finger. Yeah.
High,
very high. There we go. If you're just on the right side, he might not see.
Oh, dear.
Okay, thank you, Jess. We're going to head over for the latest from the Grid API update with Matt White.
Thank you, Josh. One more week of Grid Endurance Performance Index racing in 2025. Done and dusted over the weekend. 2 races. We'll start at the Nürburgring, where the first round of the Nürburgring Landstrecke Series happened on Saturday, a 4-hour race. And it was a 1-2 for the Falcon Porsche team. Sven Muller and Maurice Schuring getting the victory in the first of the 2 Falcon cars. You can just about see the other one in the back of shot there, coming in P2. So congratulations to them on a wet to dry changeable day at the Nürburgring. What a surprise for where that is in the world. Photo courtesy of Jochen from Frozen Speed. The second race across the weekend was in Italy at Mugello for the first of the European races for the Creventic Series. 12 hours, split 7 and 5. 7 on Saturday and 5 on Sunday. And it was won by the Maori Energy by Ebby Motors team in their Porsche. Sergei Nicolae, Sabino Di Castro and Fabrizio Brogi getting the victory in a drama-filled end to that race, where the Kessel Racing Ferrari, there it is, the Kessel Racing Ferrari was leading but they had a mix-up with their driver time for their AM drivers and had to serve a 4-lap penalty, which opened the door for the brightly coloured Porsche to come through and take the victory on Sunday. This coming weekend, we have the first 2 races of the season for the GT World Challenge USA. They are at Sonoma Raceway in California, and that means it is April, and that means on the show next week, the first EPI leaderboard of the season. So we'll see where the early runners and riders are. I kind of linked towards one last week. You'll have to be paying attention if you remember who that was. That could be top of the standings. We'll find out what happens in the first round of the GT World Challenge races at Sonoma over the weekend. It's a full schedule for those guys and the support series as well over the weekend. The World Challenge races, of course, our focus in the EPI, and next week on the show, the first EPI leaderboard, top 10 and top 50 of the season. Now time to hand back to Kobe with a few more headlines from the week.
Thanks, Matt. Time for some more racing news from around the world. NASCAR Xfinity Series regular Austin Hill will make 5 starts in the Cup Series this season. He'll reunite with his old crew chief Andy Street, driving the number 33 United Rental Chevrolet for Richard Childress Racing alongside Austin Dillon and Kyle Busch. Hill's first Cup race of the 2025 season will be next weekend at Darlington Raceway. He'll also compete in Chicago, the Daytona Summer Race, the Bristol Night Race, and the Talladega Fall Race. Hill said they've been strategic about adding new tracks to his Cup schedule each season and believes getting laps in the Cup car are important for his future. Graphic courtesy of Richard Childress Racing. Formula E driver Pascal Wehrlein will make his debut in the 24 Hours of Le Mans in June. Wehrlein was chosen to drive the number 4 Porsche for Porsche Penske Motorsport, the IMSA entry, in the hypercar class alongside co-drivers Nick Tandy and Felipe Nasr. In order to prepare for Le Mans, Wehrlein got some valuable seat time in the Rolex 24 at Daytona. He joined IMSA customer team JDC Miller Motorsports in the GTP class and got to experience the Porsche 963 before the German manufacturer gave him the call to drive for the factory team in France. Wehrlein said competing for Porsche Penske Motorsport Le Mans is a dream come true and looks forward to the challenges of endurance racing such as the seating position, setup, strategy, and more. Photo courtesy of Porsche Motorsport. After competing full-time in the NASCAR Euro Series last year, Ryan Vargas will try out NASCAR in another part of the world by competing in the Canada Series this year. In 2024, Vargas finished 10th in the Euro Series points and now gets ready for a new challenge in Canada. He'll drive the number 28 Dodge Challenger for DJ Kennington Racing with sponsorship from Critical Path Security Canada. Vargas is scheduled to run the majority of the 2025 Canada Series schedule, but if he can secure additional sponsorship, this could become a full-time effort. He said he's wanted to compete in the Canada Series for quite some time and called it really special to continue expanding his racing portfolio outside of the United States. Graphic courtesy of Drive Through Design. And earlier this afternoon, we learned that the number 26 Honda of Colton Herta failed post-race inspection following the NTT IndyCar Series event at the Thermal Club. According to IndyCar, they discovered that Andretti Global incorrectly attached the anti-intrusion plates on the aft leg of the front lower wishbones by using only 1 plate per side of the chassis instead of 2 per side. The anti-intrusion plates were inspired in the name of safety following James Hinchcliffe's scary practice crash at Indianapolis in 2015. After failing post-race inspection, the number 26 team was fined $25,000, lost all prize money awarded to them from the Thermal Club, and they also were docked 10 championship points. Photo taken by Joe Skabinski from Penske Entertainment. And that's all of the headlines I have for you all this week. So now I'm going to throw it to Matt for everyone's favorite game, Pick a Winner.
Pick a winner, where Kobe, you have actually closed the gap on myself at the top of the standings last weekend. I went a bit off the wall with my F1 picks, and it probably cost me. So I'm on top with 11. Kobe slides in the second on 9. We've now got 17 people on the board. Thanks to all of them for putting the comments in the YouTube videos or using the hashtag Pick a Winner on social media and getting their selections right. Josh is in 6th, and Jess got on the board this week, didn't she? Yes, she's on 2 points. They're in 12th position. You can get your name on the board. There's still almost 200 points to play with between now and December. So many points up for grabs. As you can see, we're only on 11. First person to get to double figures is myself. 3 points up for grabs this weekend. NASCAR is back on the oval at Martinsville on Sunday, and it's the US Grand Prix for MotoGP, of which we are going to pick the sprint race winner now, or attempt to. There can only be one answer to this question, I'm afraid. It's really boring. and it's Marc Marquez. Kobe, who are you going with?
Yeah, the king of Coda, Marc Marquez. Next.
Say no more.
On
And he's
vocal
probably going
rest.
to win on. He's going to win on Sunday too, I would have thought, as well, unless act of God. So use your social media apps, all of them: Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, X, YouTube, Instagram, Blue Sky, all of them, Threads. We're all everywhere with Network TV. Use the hashtag, pick a winner to get your selections in for those races this coming weekend: MotoGP Kota and NASCAR at Martinsville. Adam is going with Marc Marquez for the sprint as well, so that's 4 of us. We're potentially getting 1 point straight away in the couple of years ago Max Verstappen Memorial Pick a Winner point selection process. Right, time for Hots and Knots off a busy weekend at the weekend across many places. Where do we want to start? Do we start F1? I guess we probably need to start F1, don't we? From China at the weekend.
Only you can get away with saying that. Hot. What a good race.
It was. Well,
It was.
Second half went a bit drab after we realised that everyone was going to hold on and not stop again, apart from the raging bulls, but who were raging at the end of the race for doing such a strategy. But and Lewis, of course. But yeah, it was good. The first, I really enjoyed the first half. Certainly, it was entertaining throughout.
I've written a piece about this that I sent to Kobe because I had insomnia and couldn't sleep, so decided to remind myself what writing a column would be like. I enjoyed it, actually. I said it was a chess match. That's what we like. It was a proper F1 race where strategy was key, and I felt like we have finally a piece of the puzzle to what this year could be. It's McLaren out front with Ferrari somewhere and Red Bull at the back. And then we've got Williams fighting in the midfield, looking strong. And surprisingly, a hot for me, it's going to feel so... Lance Stroll.
Yes. That's 2 weeks in a row that we've hotted Lance Stroll.
Can't do it.
I feel a bit faint.
Yeah. Yeah, Lance Stroll. Credit where credit is due. What a stunning performance in China. Really good. And for me, I actually took a step back in the commentary box. Do you remember when Ollie Behrman at the hairpin went to the inside and it was a very late move and we knew he was going to lock up? Stroll actually showed he's got a brain because he let him go straight on and then he undercut. I was like, oh my God, he's actually done something smart. I was loving it. So yeah, Lance Stroll is a hot for me this week, and he's the only Aston Martin to score points. And yeah, it's bizarre, but well done, Lance. He seems to be actually doing something finally.
By Jove, he seems to be getting it.
Yeah, he's got it. It's taken 10 years, but he's got it.
Just when it was probably at maximum stress for perhaps not having that seat anymore. Maybe he's turned a corner and good luck to him. Other hot I thought was just nice seeing Lewis win early. Yeah, it was only the sprint race and it wasn't the full Grand Prix, and they had their troubles on Sunday. More to come into that in a moment. But just to see him out front and winning just was nice, I thought. Really, really good.
He dominated, didn't he? That's the old Lewis. He's still got it. And that's a taster. What are we going to see when he gets in the swing with that car later on? But will it be too late? Is McLaren going to run away with it? Can they stay close? Ferrari, shocking opening 2 races. But I like to see that. That was mainly like pre-season. Now the season starts. When we hit Japan, when we hit these races, because you get 2 weeks now to sort of sit back, look at what you've done wrong, and hit the ground running. We're going to see upgrades at Japan, which is new. So let's see how it works. But yeah, I've got a good feeling about Lewis now. But we'll get into the knot in a minute.
Yeah, for a string of a few interesting races coming up with Suzuka, Jimbo and Bahrain. Go on.
Yeah, the massive hot. USRN becoming the official radio broadcaster of IndyCar, and JB Motorsports becoming the official TV coverage of IndyCar for about 10, 25
for
minutes.
about 10 minutes.
Yeah, nobody in the world had access. The radio went down, the TV feed went down, everything went down, but the driver tracker and timings were still working, which means we were the only ones who could tell people what was going on. It was the strangest 10 minutes of my life trying to read a timing screen and the driver tracker, and then Palou come into the pit lane, work out that he's lost. No, Award come into the pit lane, realize he lost the lead, then Palou comes back in, and they swap over again, and then try to explain to people that this is what's going on. But it's a hot for me, but a massive not for Fox, and that is coming in a minute.
We'll come to that. Jess says Ollie Behrman was a hot with his brilliant overtakes and his chow, which he did kind of fess up to afterwards and said, yeah, I probably shouldn't have done that. Adam says Oscar Piastri's pole checker. We're talking of domination. Piastri during the Grand Prix, and he needed that, didn't he, after the Melbourne, I was going to say debacle, but it wasn't really. It was just a mistake or caught out, whatever, by the weather when it came. But, you know, he could have gone away from Melbourne last week and gone, oh God, I'm in a hole here against Lando already. But he's turned it around by beating him twice last weekend. Well, it would probably be really stupid of me to pick Ryan Blaney, yes, says Matthew Owens. Well, I'm guessing that you mean for pick a winner, because that's a not, which we'll get to properly in a minute. But yes, Ryan Blaney's just luck at the moment in the Cup Series is just awful.
Well done to you both, by the way. I listened to your commentary at the end. I did my other fantastic commentary. Really enjoyed it with Matthew and yourself. And a hot for me, even though I detest people doing it, Kyle Larson. Oh, so close. 2 out of 3. So close. But great job. And just as I was calling the Xfinity race, first time I had the lead for that, which was
on Saturday.
Yeah, it was. I think we did well. A couple of moments I had to adjust and really focus in, but I liked it, and hopefully I think I'm on the Xfinity again this weekend. But I like it, just that missed shift on Saturday night cost him at the restart. I was like, my heart goes out to you. But he did it on Sunday, and it was another superb fashion.
Yeah, Justin Allgaier would be a hot then. 2 wins from 2 while we're talking Xfinity Series. He's won the last 2 races 2 weeks in a row. So that is he's probably his best start to the season ever, I should think, in that series, the defending champion. Go on. Oh, okay, go on. I was going to pivot, but go on.
First non-B.
Yes, the curse of the B has been broken, and it wasn't a car that was number 20. It started with 2 either, which they've all been. Yeah,
curse of the B was broken because Birch wasn't commentating.
There you go.
First race I missed.
We had a ball. Myself, Mr. Owens, and Josh T dropping in now and again. He was dovetailing as he always does. The man with the most plates spinning in the air all at once. Craziness. Right, let's go. Not then. I don't know if there was many F1 related knots at the weekend.
Well, Ferrari. That's
apart from Ferrari, yeah, I guess, and obviously Gasly being disqualified, but mainly Ferrari after you thought after Saturday, maybe they. Oh, hang on, no, they haven't.
Same old Ferrari.
They were way off, during in pace terms, and then obviously didn't score anything.
It's typical Italian cars, though, isn't it? It's faster when bits are hanging off.
I suppose we should pivot back to hot and say well done Haas for getting so many points in the one weekend from Ocon and Behrman. But yeah, Ferrari just, I don't know. Lewis was, they tried to do the old put him on the tyres and let him run through fast on the fast strategy in the second half of the race, which didn't end up working. But yeah, I don't know.
It makes me laugh, isn't it? In the Constructors' Championship, it's in the Constructors, Williams ahead of Ferrari, and then we've got Leclerc is behind Stroll in the Drivers' Championship, but with Hamilton's sprint win, it's put him above. But that is terrifying, really terrifying.
Williams 4th on 17 points. Yeah. Ferrari also have 17, but Williams have the better finish, which puts them above. So,
when did that happen?
Yeah. And Sainz was awful at the weekend, I thought. That's probably my
Yeah.
other takeaway, not from the weekend. He had a terrible weekend. After promising Melbourne for both cars, Sainz was poor.
Sainz did
Racing
beat
Balls
him,
with their
right.
rubbish strategy, as we trailed ahead earlier on, but it's a
Yeah.
typical Laurent Mickey's run strategy, isn't it, that one, for Racing Balls, who expected everybody to pit twice, and they just didn't.
Yeah, that tyre wear caught everybody out how good it went. And it was because of Stroll, actually, that everybody saw how good the tyres were.
Because he went the other way. That's right, yeah.
Yeah. So it paid to be bold for a change. Yeah. What's not? Yeah. Should we get onto this then with IndyCar?
Yeah, I watched it back Monday. It didn't take me long. I had 15 minutes of winding in the middle.
What a joke.
I mean, out of control, I guess. If something goes bang on site, there isn't much they could do. But
yeah, we've had it.
Yeah, it's happened everywhere, hasn't it, from time to time? But yeah, what I will say is, as disappointing as all that was, when they came back to them and they didn't realise that they were actually on the air, although it was quite entertaining, they probably should have just been told to carry on.
Yeah, because it's still international.
Just carry on, guys, because we could put the full race replay up on YouTube and it would sound like nothing's happened.
Yeah, they should have. That's what we do, because if there's a problem here, we know there's still recording, so we just keep going.
We're off the air, but keep going.
Yeah,
all the producer needed to say to the Will,
Yeah.
James, and Hinch, but that message obviously didn't come through.
That could have got so wrong as well, because imagine they thought they were not live when they were live and they were swearing.
Yeah,
could have gone very
come back
bad.
into them. That's why Fox on NASCAR on Fox, don't do commentary in the breaks for the international feed.
Yeah.
Because they've got tripped up by that in the past, which is why when they go to break, they're on a break and they come
Everything
back
goes
when
dead.
come back, and we just get the onboard sounds or whatever. To Adam's comment there, take off the words on Fox Sports. IndyCar race, awful, absolutely shocking. What a terrible race that was. Unless you're Alex Palou, who again is just a marvel, but
this doesn't work. This track does not work.
What is that?
It's only really here. That's your only overtaking spot.
Yeah, the end of the back straight. Yeah, that's right, where the pass for the lead happened. The lead change at the end, wasn't it? From Alex on Pato. Matthew Owens chimes in with not Thermal Club. Doesn't feel like a good course to showcase IndyCar. Doesn't have any atmosphere, no character, no feel. You're right. There was no... I mean, there was more fans there than there was last year, and I guess our friend Jackson could attest to that because he was there. Just rubbish. The track's got no flow. It's too narrow.
Get rid.
Hashtag track limits. I just wasn't very good. But if we're gonna see a big calendar shuffle next year, which we expect to see once Fox get their fingers in, and we've got Arlington coming on that weekend for next year, the first Arlington race. That might be the last time we go to Thermal, and I, for one, I'm quite happy about it.
Interesting. Kobe said that. IndyCar said if they return to Thermal, the layout will probably change. There is the layouts. Where? What? Cut out? Where is it down here? So go straight from turn 1 to 6, miss out the infield section, and what? Cut back up here somewhere?
Or go reverse.
S's section? Look like that.
Upside down, inside out. Well, yeah. All of those potentials. Well, yeah, indeed.
Go. Why did you do that?
For a big track. Yeah, rubbish. Terrible.
Maybe I touched notes of China. There's a behind the scenes for you all. Speeds and everything.
DRS zones, etc.
Exactly, yes.
Yeah,
Where's
very
a
good.
good restaurant for food as well is on here.
I'm not sure I've got any more. I think I'm all out of not.
No. Hang on a minute. I'm doing my... and also Thermal Club doesn't send a good message to regular fans because it's an exclusive club for elites with money, not the common working class fan. A lot of fans feel insulted by this event. I felt insulted by watching it.
Yeah, my
I
eyes
did.
were insulted.
Yeah.
And it was on at the same time as NASCAR, which we're trying to get away from this stuff.
Who was
So
was
yeah,
that? Fox.
and we've got another one coming up in a couple of weeks. Barber and somewhere. IndyCar needs to go back to Cleveland, Denver, and Michigan, says Adam. And maybe, Adam, you could add on Vancouver, Brands Hatch,
Yeah.
Lausitz Ring, Assen, Gold Coast,
Belle Isle.
Rio, Monterey, Belle Isle, Mont Tremblant, Road Atlanta, even they could go to.
That'd be good.
It'd be a short lap, but
Worth
it would be
it.
cool.
Yeah.
It would be worth it. Yeah,
Sebring would
IndyCar
probably
Canada
bring
shows
back,
that
wouldn't
coming.
they? They couldn't do Sebring.
No, and I think that has been talked about before. That's why they only, when they test at Sebring, they use the short loop, which is out of turn one and then double back right-hander and then back down the back straight again. So,
actually, that reminds me. Some point this week, we've got footage from the IndyCar test that they had at Barber that was sent out to the media. That's going to be uploaded to this channel at some point next week. I've put it all together, a nice little edit for you lot to see. So you'll get to see what the drivers had to say when they tested at Barber.
one final knot that I've just remembered I wanted to talk about. So this coming weekend, as we will sit here right now, generally on the list of international motorsport, we have the Cup Series and the Xfinity Series at Martinsville, World Superbike at Portimao, and COTA MotoGP. Weekend after that, Darlington for the Cup and Xfinity, and I don't know where the trucks are, I'm not sure. Suzuka Grand Prix for Formula One. The weekend after that is Miami Formula E, IMSA Long Beach, Xfinity Series Bristol, Supercars Taupo, World Superbike Assen, Formula 1, Formula 2, Formula 3 Bahrain, MotoGP Qatar, GT World Challenger at Paul Ricard, Cup Series at Bristol, IndyCar Long Beach. Then it's Easter. No, just spread out, please, God. And that's my wife's birthday weekend. I'm going to get to see nothing of this. Absolutely nothing. I'll squeeze the Grand Prix in, you can be sure. But yeah, 12th and 13th of April. Not good. Not good at all after these 2 weeks of fairly nothingness. And then it all goes potty. And Josh has just had a worried realization that weekend is going to be larger than his weekend a couple of weeks ago, the Melbourne weekend, where he was on pretty much 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Sorry. I apologise.
Yeah.
Matthew Owen says NASCAR and IndyCar clashing is not what a mess, and all of the Homestead pit road collisions. Yeah, there was a few at the weekend.
There wasn't there? Yeah. Logano got
loose
spun
wheels
around.
last week, and pit lane collisions this week.
I saw Logano got spun around as well in the pits.
And Josh Berry.
Yeah, that's it.
How
many series exactly is that? Because that sounds like a hell of a lot.
Let me run you through that again. Formula E at Miami Homestead.
Yeah.
IMSA Long Beach. Bristol Xfinity race. That's your Saturday.
Yeah.
Covering both that, just single races, obviously, for those three. Sunday and both days, Supercars in Taupo, World Superbike at Assen, Formula 1, Formula 2, and Formula 3 in Bahrain. All of the MotoGP madness in Qatar. IndyCar Long Beach, Cup Series at Bristol, and for the EPI, the GT World Challenge Europe at Paul Ricard.
That's at least 12 events that we cover.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 if you discount that Ricard race and all the support races for World Superbikes and Supercars. I'm
going to be dead. And then
Easter weekend, which is the weekend after, is the Jeddah F1 weekend, WEC at Imola, and Rockingham for Xfinity Series. There's nothing else on Easter because people try to avoid Easter. But don't put them all on the weekend before.
And that's my birthday weekend as well, because 21st of April's mine on the Monday, Easter Monday this year. Okay, so that means that literally 2 days, because I will finish that on midnight Monday morning. I then have to
after Long Beach IndyCar, that'll be late finish.
I then have to get a train early Monday to go down to Donington for the Tuesday media day of touring cars, which we are broadcasting all day.
Excellent news.
And there's about 6 people coming. So we're going to have people dotted around. We're going to try and broadcast all day. So there'll be something all day.
The only live broadcast from the racetrack at Donington Park.
I can't wait.
Matthew Owen says Chase Elliott's throwback scheme is not. It is terrible.
I'm terrified. So that's production meeting that week is going to be fun if Jess is still watching. That's a knot then, the schedule.
Yeah, sorry, I've rolled that one in. Sorry.
I would have probably realised next week.
Yeah, I'm not sure you knew it was coming, but I've preempted you.
I did not know that was coming because we haven't got around to doing the April schedule yet. We've got a motorsport schedule where it's all on and we know what's coming, but we haven't done the timings schedule yet where we plan the show. We've only done to the end of this week. Jess is still watching. Jess, emergency production meeting at some point in this week before we go nuts.
I'd love to help you out that weekend, but I am away because it's the worst birthday. So I'm out. I'm out of Dodge that weekend.
That's all right. You'd be delighted to know that. I don't know which one it's going to be yet, whether it's World Superbikes or MotoGP, but we've managed to snag Mallory Dobbs into the commentary box.
Excellent.
So she's coming in for this weekend. I don't know where, but we've managed to get her. So I've taken both of Matty's riders because I've already got Lizzie. So, but that's going to be fun. Of course, I've got Mallory's sticker on my headset. Where is it? There we go. Can you see? There you go. Mallory Dobbs. Yeah. And Lizzie's is up there on the monitor. So, yeah. The only thing is, as well, Mallory is now sponsored by OnlyFans. So that's going to be entertaining to see how much we can get that advertised over the weekend for her. So, yeah, that's going to be fun. I'm all out of hots.
Yeah, I'm all out of hots and knots.
Yeah. We need to get that song as well.
No time for golden hots or knots this week, unfortunately. But I'm sure we'll come up with something next week. I don't think there was one. No, in either case. I guess the golden knot has to be Fox going off the air.
Yeah.
I guess that has to be the golden balls up of the week. And Devlin Di Francesco running into Scott McLaughlin before the green flag.
Oh, yeah, that was hilarious. How did that happen?
What? Penske's weekend at that point couldn't have got any worse. It got worse from there.
And then he decided to pull the plug. Penske Media Entertainment pulls the plug after a bad weekend. I'll note that down for the 500. Okay, taking a look at our upcoming schedule, because we're doing mine's going to be a living nightmare. For Grid Network, it's nice and easy for you. That's all right. Thursday night, you can join the Grid Live pre-race show previewing the NASCAR weekend. Sunday, Grid Live wrap-up. That's 90 minutes after the NASCAR Cup Series race at Martinsville. And on Monday, Grid Encore at 7 p.m. Eastern, recapping the trucks and Xfinity races at Martinsville. Please do continue to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you very much for helping us reach 1,500 subscribers. Now we're inching closer to our next milestone of 2,000 subscribers, and you can hit the bell icon to get notifications so you'll always know when we go on the air, and follow all of our social media platforms and visit our website, gridnetworktv.com. You can take 5 minutes to invest in the Grid Network through Patreon. You can join Colin, Mark, Deshelle, Robin, David, and Matthew, who invest each month in the Grid Network. And we encourage you to join these fine folks, help us keep us on the air. And once we hit $500 per month, we can afford to send our team to the track more often and continue to grow our media outlet. The link to that is in the video description. And if you want to make a one-time donation, you can click on the Buy Me a Coffee link, get your name on the board, and invest as much as you want, and consider buying a specific on-air personality cup of coffee, and they will thank you on the air. And instead of playing our usual outro, we'll end with another moment of silence to remember Eddie Jordan. All of us here at Grid Network continue to think about his family and friends during this difficult time, and we hope his memory will be a blessing. For Kobe Lambeth, Matt White from Green & Jones Performance Index, and Jess Ball from JP Motorsports, I'm Josh Burge from JP Motorsports. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next time. Goodbye.